Let me start with a childhood memory, a step back. Before the Googles and ChatGPTs used to rule our lives, if somebody wants to do an experiment in the kitchen, the only go-to support was not a YouTube channel, but it was to go for a cookery book or recipe book available at the local stores. I don't know how many of you relate to that, but I relate to it. And so one of my cousin sisters and I lived in a joint family with my grandmother, a very strong, self-empowered woman, Mrs. Devi Menon. My mom was a professor, so she used to be in another city. Appo, Achama, and so this one of the cousins decided to create something called Burmese chicken. And why Burmese chicken? Because my grandmother used to be in Burma along with my grandfather, who used to be the accountant general for British government. Second World War breakout idappo. She had to pass through the jungles with my father and other siblings. And that is a story of Burma. Coming back to the kitchen and the chicken, what happened was this cookery book and this whole thing was made, but Achama tried to test it and she told that person, not me, I was there, saying, hey, this is not Burmese chicken, idinu vera perittu vilikam. So it was something she asked, did you miss a page or what? Edo oru page miss cheyidu poyo, something is missing, but korpoilla. So this is what she actually playfully reminded me, that life is not always a perfect recipe. Sometimes you will miss an ingredient, sometimes you will miss a step, but something better will come out of it. That is called a detour, and I'm going to talk about my detours in my life, what really happened and shaped my life. So the first detour was actually on November 29, 1998, when I was actually working in the first regional satellite television in Kerala to support a producer of the show. I had to support him to be on television to do the quiz show. That was my first detour. It was called Family Telequiz, just to support. But that night, in the വീട്ടിലെ telephone, and the telephone on a mobile phone never stopped ringing because, oh, you were great, you were so nice, you were so humorous. That was an additional, maybe an added page to my history of my life. And then what happened was, suddenly started recognizing me overnight. I started getting handwritten letters from Ammumamaru to Ammamaru to Kuttiyal to, so that was an interesting conversation I had with these people, unknown faces, because it was in television. I was not connected to the camera, but behind the camera there's a connection. And I used to work. I had a corporate career. So Saturdays, Sundays, I had to shoot around 12 episodes. Noorolam families from Samsarikim, 5 members of the family. That was my best connection, and that actually shaped me. It gave me a voice, a confidence, and of course, I think the lifelong passion for love, the communication, talking to people anytime, even orakathil polum, and then understanding other people's culture, heritage, and bringing in new perspectives. So that is my first detour. The second detour, and I should say that is a quiet step, but made a brilliant, people started telling that this is also a way of communicating to people in television, because it was usually very വരമൊഴിയിലിരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്താണ് നമ്മൾ ഇങ്ങനെ സംസാരിക്കുന്ന രീതിയിൽ ഞാൻ ക്യാമറയോട് സംസാരിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങിയത്. So after, I think 29 November stands a very good, ഒരു നിമിത്തമുണ്ട് എൻ്റെ ലൈഫിൽ, because after I delivered my son Avan on November 29 later. And so that was very trivia but that's also something which always I keep close to my heart. After 2.5 years, people think, okay, fine, she's a quiz host. Adanu Mari to take out the stereotypical enda namakku cheyan patta pudiyadu, and along with my work. So that time I was actually doing my maternity leave of 6 months, and then I decided to do the first woman travelogue. Actually, it's called Sanjari, and it was actually approved by late Shri M.T. Vasudevan Nair sir. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ project ആയിരുന്നു India Vision വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് Sanjari. At that time, it was an interesting thing going through the corners of India to understand the culture, the heritage, the perspectives, and one connection to the Malayali. So അതായിരുന്നു എൻ്റെ ഒരു പ്രോഗ്രാമിൻ്റെ ഒരു സ്ട്രക്ചർ. കാണാ കാഴ്ചകൾ ഒരുപാട് കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട് ഞാൻ ആ സമയത്ത്, because I could come back. I was paid. Actually, it's a paid holiday for me, but I came back to be with my son, but I also see a different part of the world. For example, Hogganakal river, നദി ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, റിവറിൽ അവിടുന്ന് തന്നെ മീൻ പിടിച്ച് അവിടുന്ന് തന്നെ മസാല പുരട്ടി വിൽക്കുന്നൊരു സ്ത്രീ, അവരെനിക്കിപ്പോഴും ഓർമ്മയുണ്ട്. So she asked me one question. So I was shooting and I was talking to her and said, and my Tamil is so bad, but I tried talking and understanding. So one question she asked, does your husband beat you? I was taken aback. So itreke self-empowered ഒരു സ്ത്രീക്ക്, this was one question she wanted to ask. Something else I saw that was like in Narayanpur, Bastar എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ നാരായൺപൂരിലെ ഏറ്റവും അധികം tribal community in Chhattisgarh. I was there along with their tribal, what you call, what a tribal festival. The, I'm talking about this perspectives and cultural learnings that actually gathered. ഒരുപാട് information ക്യാമറയ്ക്ക് കൊടുക്കുമെങ്കിലും one important thing I thought of telling you is one of this experience. I went to this place called Dantewada in Chhattisgarh. So അവിടെ ഒരു farmer, അവരുടെ കൂടെ നമ്മൾ ഇത് ഭക്ഷണം കഴിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങി ഷൂട്ട് ചെയ്യണമല്ലോ. So I'm talking and eating with them. ചപ്പാത്തിയും ചെറിയ കുറേ സാലഡും ഒക്കെ ആയിട്ട്. So ഞാൻ ചോദിച്ചു, after I ate nicely and I said, aren't you not eating? And അവർ 4 വയസ്സായ മകൻ പറഞ്ഞു, this was my lunch. എൻ്റെ കണ്ണ് നിറഞ്ഞു പോയി. Because something I learned that, അവരവരുടെ എല്ലാ വിഷമങ്ങളും മാറ്റിവെച്ച് they actually gave it as അതിഥികളെ സ്വീകരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത്. So many of the great experiences, but actually that was my second detour. Then I started working. In between, I went abroad to do a small course as a visiting scholar, again with a library card and what you call student pass, and went to UBC, University of British Columbia, Vancouver. Adum a bold journey, because taking that step and going back and studying and coming back and applying to your job. Then comes the interview കാലഘട്ടം. Interview കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ what exactly was my real classroom? Because അതുവരെയ്ക്കും ഞാൻ പഠിച്ചിരുന്നത് or ഞാൻ അറിഞ്ഞത് information കൊടുക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. This time it was information gathering and also applying to my life, because it's a lot of great personalities I interviewed. And that really told me that I am an interviewer, but അത് എനിക്ക് ഷൈൻ ചെയ്യാനുള്ളതല്ല. But the person who's sitting in front of you, to get the best things out of that person, unseen, unheard stories, and at the end of the day, make that individual smile. And basically not asking difficult questions, but basically ensuring that we have a rapport. And ആ ഒരു ഇതിൽ എപ്പോഴും എന്നോട് പറയാറുണ്ട്, അതായത് നല്ല ഉത്തരങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നാണ് അടുത്ത നല്ല ചോദ്യം വരുന്നത്. That becomes a conversation. So that was one of the best opportunities I had to interview multiple people. And I have to give you some of examples, otherwise you will not be, what I'm talking about. So for example, A.R. Rahman. So I talked to him and I asked him at the end of my conversation, said, if your music had a flavor, if it is spicy, sugar, sweet, what it could be. Within a second, the answer came out, no, it could be in a departmental store. That means his music is available for everyone. Second one was, of course, with Sri Maniratnam. സത്യമായിട്ടും വിറച്ചിട്ടാണ് ഞാൻ പോയത്. ഞാൻ ഇത്രയും പഠിച്ചിട്ടില്ല ഒരു ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂവിന് പോകുമ്പോൾ. So it was for his recent film, and I was sitting in front of him, the edge of the seat, and I asked him one question. He works with the best people, the best national award-winning Shrikar Prasad, to cinematographers like Santosh Shivan, to A.R. Rahman, to the script writers, the best actors in the country. But whenever you go back to him again and again, how do they give you the best? How do they raise the bar for you? So he said, cinema is art of fiction. And for them to make it better, they work for the script to enhance it. They do not look at the previous ones. For them, this film is the best, and it's a first film kind of approach they always give. That means the practice he was talking about. Even though you have that commitment and trust and confidence in the best people working with you, that collaboration and making the project better. The third example I should give you, Loka movie. I'm sure you would have all seen and heard and talked about. So when I interviewed Kalyani Priyadarshana, I asked her in Malayalam, and that too, she wanted me to talk in Malayalam because she said, Chechi, jam padichittu varum Malayalam, but I really want to talk in Malayalam. That is conviction. So I asked her, Kalyani Petila local image enda. How does people think about you? So she said, what do people usually think about? She said, Chechi, Kalyani nalla kuttiya, പക്ഷെ വായ തുറന്ന പോയി. But now, നമ്മളെ അവർ വായടച്ചു. The way that movie has gone to, across the country and people talking about it. The way she has made her career. And that's one example from a millionaire like you I want to talk about. Another one bigger example I should say also with Sri Mammootty. When I interviewed Mammootty, I asked one question. That also edge of the seat. First time I'm seeing, and interviewing him, I asked, how do you act with kids? Because that movie, he had a role with a small boy. So I said, sir, എങ്ങനെയാണ് കുട്ടികളുടെ കൂടെ അഭിനയിക്കുന്നത്? So he said a very fantastic response to me, saying, കുട്ടികളെ കുട്ടികളായിട്ടല്ല കാണുന്നത്, അവർക്കൊരു വ്യക്തിത്വമുണ്ട്. Their individuality matters, and you need to be in that level to act with them, to understand that he's a person. He's a human being. It's not that നമ്മുടെ അത്ര ഹൈറ്റ് ഇല്ലെങ്കിലും that person has got an individuality, and that has to be mattered when you act with that person. It was a brilliant response, and most of my fellow interviewers said, we never asked that question. I was so happy that it came to me that time, at the right time to ask that question. The last one, the example is about Mr. Kamla Hassan. Again, when I asked him, sir, if you have to explain ഒരു visually challenged ആൾക്ക് sitting in beach, you can take it's a Calicut beach, and if he's sitting and seeing the sunset, and if you have to explain that person what is sunset, what will you do? And this is also without even batting an eyelid, ഒരു നിമിഷം കൊണ്ട് ആൻസർ വന്നു. He said, ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ രണ്ട് കൈയും ഇങ്ങനെ റബ്ബ് ചെയ്യും, and that heat generated, I'll just keep on the cheeks of that particular person and tell him, this is what you're feeling now, this is the experience of the sunset. I mean, this kind of warmth, humility, and the kind of responses which gathered me, and it's really interesting that how it became more, it gave me a lot of, what you call the perspectives, a lot of windows open in my life to make sure that how we can be a better person every time when we go and talk to people like, not even celebrities, so many other people I've interviewed, educators, a person who's actually a self-made woman who making people study abroad. So many examples like that. So what I'm talking about is this detours actually made stronger relationships with me as well, to how to make sure that I'm, how can be more authentic, how can be more genuine when I communicate with people. And of course, these interviews gave me that I told a passion for love. So it also used to translate to my workplace. And the last detour, I should say that it happened during the COVID time. So when interviews happened and then COVID time, me and my son started doing some short reels just to make the elder generation in my family to feel good, because they were not going out. And one day we just put it in Instagram, see how much it relates to people. It started gathering momentum because so many people walked up to me and said, oh my God, this is what in my family also. Enda magan, enda magalakku inganeyana. And one particular person walked up to me and told me, when I was traveling, said, when I was passing through a mental health issue, I used to see your reels with your son and it used to make me smile. And that particular comment stayed with me. Even if you're doing maybe 10 views or to 1 million views, you have made a difference to one particular person. That matters. And that is what you have, that made your day, and maybe that at least that year for me as such. So talking towards a detour as such, basically why I'm saying the word detour is continuously is, sometimes from your main path, you try to get into the smaller road less traveled, and you can, sometimes you say that, why am I going through this? Why did you take this? But I decided to take those journeys, explore those journeys, and bring in some experiences. Karanam, that makes a life better for you. Sometimes, chellavarkku ee journey destination and the main journey at theeraayirikkum. But what I did was, I made these two parallel tracks in my life, so that these two experiences of these two journeys made me a better person. And what is a better thing which I heard or which I learned from the interviews of my media career is Kshama, listening to people, understanding the people, heritage. It's inclusion, and of course, മറ്റുള്ളവരുടെ ഒരു ഷൂസിൽ നിന്ന് സംസാരിക്കാനോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചിന്തിക്കാനോ ഉള്ള ഒരു thought process തരും. Because when you do an interview, that is what you happen. When you give we will try and make a lot of questions, but sometimes with one particular conversation will always stay with you. Recently, I did that with Manju Pillai and her daughter, and I asked Dia that, when your parents got separated, and this is she has not spoken this anywhere. I said, how did you deal with yourself? Because your mom and dad usually to be in one home, now you have to go to two different homes to meet them. What did you do differently? She said a very fabulous, fantastic response, and I really not expected from her, from a young girl like her. She said, I never wanted my mom and dad to be unhappy. So I ensured that I'm the one who told them, you should go separate, but I am there with you. And this is something I took it, and I said this in multiple forums, because so many people, so many divorces are happening in our life because multiple reasons. But the children, this angles really helped them. So that is my, complete list of detours I've taken. But these detours actually ensured that I'm a better person. I mean, I have to become a better person. I cannot be, all these television or a corporate career decides and, be with you, but then who you are genuinely matters. In the recent one film discussion I participated, somebody asked me, how difficult is that for you to be authentic, അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞെന്താ വെച്ചാൽ, നാടോടുമ്പോൾ നടുവേ ഓടണം, പക്ഷെ ഞാനായിട്ട് ഓടണം. because I started from an analog, beta, digital, YouTube, now the chat GPT, kind of a digital transformational age, whether it is very hard to mimic someone. You have to be yourself to be genuine and authentic. And that was my response to that particular person. So call to action to people sitting in this room is actually, it's very, it's difficult to be only maintaining one main path. Sometimes you have to create that alternate journey, a detour, or something which gives you more happiness. Enjoying the best of both worlds is the right word in English, but that definitely will give you much better chances to explore new experiences. And without new experiences, the sometimes you will find, what am I doing? Why am I going? Why am I doing this? Angane chindelu maranayittu, you need to have that alternate backup. And right, for me, I have done that because from a motherhood, from a communication career to a television career, people ask me, how do you manage this? I am there today I'm here because I wanted to be here. And that is because I enjoy the best of both worlds and I love to do things which I want to do. And I think this is what I really wanted to live with you all. What is your detour and how do you want to do that and how do you want to shape it? Thank you so much.